Step number one, I need to get some tools from the workshop. So if you follow along the bench here, you'll find the wrenches right up here in this area. You're going to want to look for these two that I actually just grabbed off the side. But they're right here. You can grab two of them. Number 12 happens to be the right size. If you get the wrong size, you'll know pretty soon. But I like grabbing two of them because it just makes my life easier. So the number 12 on the metric ones on the bottom, grab two of those, then we'll head out to the next step. Okay, so first thing, if you're doing the emergency brake, you want to take this brake and make sure it's all the way up to get started. So, which is normally in the off position. So we'll do that. Then we'll come back to the back. And down here, we'll notice it's a big muddy mess. So first thing, we'll have to knock mud off. But hopefully you won't have to deal with the mud. So the brake is this little guy here is the thick piece that we're working with. So you want to zoom in on that?
I do.
You see it? Okay. So again, I have two of these number 12s. I'm going to put one of them on that inside one, and this is the one I need to loosen first. So let's see if we can get it loose. There we go. Once you get it started, it'll actually kind of come out on its own. So loosen that one. Okay, and then come all the way around so you can see inside. So you can see this wire. This wire, that's the actual brake. When the brake is pulled, it's going to pull it that way up. So I want to start where it's all the way down, which is in the off position. Let me clean up a little bit more dirt. This dirt's in the way. Again, hopefully you won't have to deal with that. Okay, so this looks good. All the way open. The black is touching all the way out. This thing is loose. So the next thing I'm going to do is with this outer one, I'm going to move it all the way in just by hand. And if that inner one's touching, I need to pull the inner one out more. So hopefully I can show this to you and you can see what I'm doing. This will make sense. So in order to do this, you're going to have to do both of them at the same time. But the inner one, I'm going to be loosening it more. I'm pulling the inner one out. Okay, I think that's enough. Then I'm going to do it finger tight. It's still not hitting, so I'm going to have to come out a little bit more. And I will say, for those that are driving the mule, the main thing that causes this to wear down is by driving it with the brake on. So one thing, just to try to be in the habit of double checking, triple checking that the brake is off before you start driving. So this is probably the trickiest part, just being able to loosen the inner portion of it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in again. Okay, now it's actually, so I can feel it right there. It's actually touching tight, but this outer one still has space. So I know it's not tight on the outer one. This screw is actually what is the brake. This screw, the inside portion of it, touches up against the brake pad on the inside. And so now we're touching right up against it. And I'm just gonna leave it right there so it's just right against it, but with my fingers, and it's not tight at all. But just, yeah, it's just barely touching. Then once it's barely touching, I'm going to try to, I'll put this one on the inside. So I'm going to keep that one at that same spot, and then I'm going to tighten the inner one again. So actually I could take this off now, and I'm just going to tighten the inner. So if I don't want that to the outside to go, okay. I'm sure you can see it. So tightening it. I'm tightening it, okay. Okay, and you want to make sure that just that inner one is nice and tight. So that's tight. So now when this thing pulls forward, it's actually going to be pulling it straight against it. So I'm going to come over here, and so I'll show you here first. I'm going to actually test this. So I'm going to pull it down, and I can already tell that it's working because when I pull it down, it's really hard to do it, which means it's actually pulling that. And we just got to rinse and repeat on the other side. So big muddy mess first. So just kind of move some of the mud out of the way. The main thing you need to get access to is the screw. So same thing here. Get that on it, and then we need to loosen it first. It's still a little bit dirty. But there you go, it's starting to loosen. Once it starts loosening it, you can usually loosen it by hand. Yep. Okay. And I'm going to pull this all the way down first. There's a little bit of gunk in there, so I'm just going to move it out of the way. It's dirty. Okay, I'm just making sure I see that plastic in the back, that it is all the way, and it is. I can feel it and see that it's there. So I'm going to have to do that same thing again. I mean, I could try to tighten it loosely first. But you notice when I tighten this loosely, this thing touches. So I'm gonna have that's not what we want. We actually need it. We need this outer screw to touch first. So then this is when we do the same loosening again, where we put one on the inside. Okay. Hold the other on the outside. And again, we're going to loose, which is loosen the inside inner one. Looks like I might be able to do it with one hand. Yeah, there we go. It is a little bit too tight, but I can hold that. Not sure if you're able to see. I'm going to do that one more time. So on that one. The other thing I could do is I could tighten this one. Well, that one's there, so I could take the outside and go in. Either way, I'm just making, the net result of this is I'm making the space between this nut and the top of this screw smaller. So now I'm going to make sure this is pushed all the way down. I'm going to put this in manually. And now it's actually touching right before I hit. I can feel it. When this is tight, there's still a gap, which is what we want. There's a gap on this one, which means that the screw itself is touching all the way in. So once I get that, where that gap is just right by it, that's where I'm actually going to then want to screw the other one in. So I can kind of do it by hand. Yeah, it's kind of just perfectly tight on it. So again, just making sure it's right there.
Your hand is pretty much covering it.
Sorry. So we have it at that part, then we can tighten the outer one, the inner one. It's really strong like that. It's nice and tight again. And I'll go up. Keep an eye on that when I pull it tight. With both of those tight. Again, right here, it's off. When I pull it, you can feel that it's really, really tight. So it's nice and tight. But again, make sure before you start driving, always make sure you let that go all the way up to the top, and it'll keep the emergency brake working for longer. There you go. Last step, make sure you come back in here and put these bad boys back where you got them. That way, they'll be exactly where we need them next time. Sweet. Thank you much.